Within the Commission, we have a number of statutory remits. One of those is to work with employers to encourage them to promote equality of opportunity and affirmative action, or positive action, which is the equivalent term used in other pieces of equality legislation other than the fair employment legislation. Today, I've been asked to look at what the law allows and does not allow in relation to the setting of goals and targets. To do that, I would begin by looking at the Fair Employment Code of Practice. Now, although this deals just with fair employment, the guidance in relation to affirmative action has broad similarities with the other equality areas. So what does the code say on targets and goals? Well, it says that goals are targets and measures that a reasonable employer would be expected to meet within a certain period of time in terms of addressing Protestant or Catholic underrepresentation in the workforce. So goals are aspirational and goals are not quotas. Quotas are where you reserve jobs or training opportunities for a certain equality group, and therefore you exclude other groups on the basis of their social and equality identity. So to recap, there's a clear distinction between targets and goals on the one hand, which are permissible, and quotas which are not permissible. So let's take another example in relation to sex equality. If you have an employer where there's an underrepresentation of women, in that case, the employer can use positive action measures to encourage more women to apply for jobs. And therefore, it would be reasonable for them to set goals and targets in terms of the number of women they want to see applying for jobs with that company. One area where there's a slight difference is in terms of disability legislation, because under disability legislation, the positive action provisions are different than for the other types of equality, because in relation to disability, you can actually treat disabled people more favourably than non-disabled people. In practice, that means you can reserve jobs for disabled people. For example, you can reserve certain jobs for disabled people who are long-term unemployed or who have certain limited education qualifications. And that makes positive action in relation to disability unique. You can still establish targets and goals in relation to disability legislation in the same way as you can with the other equality areas. So in conclusion, when an employer is looking at goals and targets, they are permissible under equality legislation under certain circumstances of underrepresentation. Quotas are not permissible. Employers considering positive action or affirmative action or goals or timetables, they don't have to contact the Equality Commission before they introduce these measures. But we recommend that they do, and we would be happy to work with them to keep them on the right side of the law. They can also access guidance on our website, and we have a confidential inquiry line where they can get one-to-one advice on the setting of targets and goals.